Greetings, family. This is the Garveyite perspective on Kwanzaa. I greet you in the words of peace, shalom, assalamu alaikum, hotep, alafia, and as always, race first. So, let us go into the presentation. First of all, we see the 7 primary symbols of Kwanzaa. You see the candles, we see the mzao, which is the fruits and vegetables, the muhindi, the kinara, mishima saba, the kikomba cha umoja, which is the unity cup, and of course we see the zawadi, which is the gifts. And if you take a look at the bottom at the picture there, you see the mat, or not the mat, I apologize. You see the bendera. So let's take a look at the colors of the bendera. You see here on the Kwanzaa official website, it says the colors of the bendera are black, red, and green. The colors of the Kwanzaa flag are the colors of the organization US. Black, red, and green. Black for the people, red for their struggle, and green for the future that comes from that struggle. The bendera is based on the national flag given to us by the Honorable Marcus Garvey, with slight adjustments in order and interpretation of the colors made in the 1960s. So we take a look at the flag here, and we see that the top color is black, the middle color is green, the middle color is red, and the bottom color is green. Why is that order that way? So we take a look at what the website says. We put black first because, in fact, the people come first. Then red for the struggle, which is waged on and by for the people. And finally green, which is for the people's future. All right, so now we see here, this is the protocol to the right. You see the protocol for the way that you're supposed to hang the flag of the organization US. All right, moving forward. So where did Garvey get the colors from? You see where it said that the colors come from the national flag given by Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, but where did he get those colors from? When we take a look back in time, we see a situation in Chicago. A 17-year-old boy decided to go swimming with some of his friends at a segregated beach. I believe the beach was called the 29th Street Beach. A group of white men decided they wanted to throw rocks at this little black boy because he had crossed an imaginary segregation line in the water. While throwing the rocks at this little boy, he tried to swim back. Hitting the head, he ended up drowning. And you see in the pictures here, people gathered at the dock at the same area. You see up to the right, you see white children chasing black children through the streets. This, unfortunately, are images of the Elaine massacre, the beginning of the Red Summer. Moving forward. Here you see a picture of a beautiful young girl. This is just an image to illustrate the point. But the point is that the colors have meaning. The UNIA ACL the UNIA ACL anthem was written at or within a stone's throw of the site where a young Negro girl, about 17 years of age, was found brutally murdered and dissected in the year of 1919, the same Red Summer. Now we look at the words to the national anthem of the UNIA ACL. It says, "Oh, her red blood they spilled on the meadow shall always be dear to me. Her black form that laid on that meadow cried out, Africa must be free. The red and the black tearful given, the green grass did tenderly screen, and the rain fell bright teardrops from heaven on the red, the black, and the green." So when we ask about the purpose and the origin of the red, black, and green colors, we see that it comes from a very specific time, a very specific instance, and the necessity to respond to things that were going on at this time. Here you see a copy of the Constitution, the national anthem of the UNIA ACL, and of course the Pledge of Allegiance to the UNIA ACL, where it says, "I commit my body, mind, and spirit to the protection, defense, and security of the red, black, and green." There at the bottom you see a copy of the UNIA Catechism, written in 1920. They say very clearly inside there that the red stands for the blood shed by men for their liberation. The black is obviously for the skin that unites us, and green for the glorious Mother Africa. Ashe. Moving forward, let us take a look now at the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. unity, to develop an expansive society among the nation and race. Self-determination, to assist in the development of an independent Negro communities. Collective work and responsibility, a humanitarian spirit of pride and love to reclaim the fallen and administer to and assist the needy. Cooperative economics, to work for the general uplift of Negro peoples of the world. Purpose, to conserve the rights of our noble race and to respect the rights of all mankind. Creativity, to work for better conditions among Negroes everywhere. And faith, with love and charity, establish universities, colleges, academies, and schools for the racial education of the culture of the people. Ashe, are these the 7 principles? What we see, though, is that these 7 principles come directly from the aims and objectives of the UNIA-ACL, as expressed in a speech in 1923, written again in 1924. You see where the 7 principles actually come from. And here's an example of the speech, again written in 1924. Moving forward. Here you see a side-by-side of the 7 principles and the aims and objectives of the UNIA-ACL. And if you look carefully, you notice that they're almost identical. Because this is the NIA, this is the purpose of our struggle. If we are working, we must be working to uplift our people, to unify our people. Otherwise, we are not working. Ashe? Moving forward, umoja. Let us look carefully at these different principles. A natural progression from family to community to nation and then race is an automatic progression. Yes? So when we see the family, community, nation, and race being identified, we must look at exactly who these people are and what is the point. Why are we doing this? And if we notice that the Dagi knot was used as the image for the Umoja Day, it's a knot, not loose threads. Ashe? Moving on, defining unity. Here again on the Kwanzaa website, you see that there's a definition. It says if one starts with the family when discussing unity, the community, local and national, becomes of necessity the next level of concern. Of necessity. So then the nation or national community becomes of necessity the next level of concern and practice, right? So what is nation? Nation is the state of being a nation. Basically, sovereignty, every individual has sovereignty, but the state of a nation is when we come together and claim our nationhood. Ashe? And you see here it says Malcolm X taught us that community unity first depended on everyone's belonging to an organization, then all organizations uniting on the basis of common interests and aspirations. Now we see this here comes from the actual Kwanzaa website. So moving forward, what else did Malcolm teach us? Malcolm teaches us that Black nationalism, again, we're talking about defining nation, Black nationalism is a self-help philosophy. What's so good about it? You could stay right in the church where you are and take Black nationalism as your philosophy. You could stay in any kind of civic organization that you belong to and take Black nationalism as your philosophy. You can be an atheist and take Black nationalism as your philosophy. This is a philosophy that eliminates the necessity for division and argument across the board. So when we look at the teachings of our illustrious ancestors, we must focus on the things that unify us and that we can use successful tools to further liberate our people and gain success in the future. Ashe, moving forward. Kuji Chagalia, self-determination. To define, name, create, and speak for ourselves. Now notice when we say ourselves, we are not talking about individuals. We are talking about the collective. Clearly, again, we're speaking about sovereignty. Each individual has an automatic sovereignty. However, what we are seeing here, when it says to define and name ourselves, that is us collectively defining and naming ourselves. And we see the image was the Ashanti stool, the golden stool of the Ashanti nation. protected by the sister you see there, Queen Ya Asante-Wa, a perfect example and legacy left of an individual standing up to weak leadership, organizing with the collective to preserve the sovereignty of the glorious Ashanti nation. Ashe? Again, we must take these examples and use them in our daily lives, because once we know, we cannot unknow. Ujima, collective work and responsibility. What kind of work? We said collective work, responsibility. Okay, and when we look at that symbol there, the Akona Ntauso, I had it earlier. We gotta cut that part out. Okay, represents obligation, a collective obligation. It does not represent an individual obligation. It does not represent an opportunistic obligation. You are obligated to do these things that we are speaking about as far as the 7 principles, as well as the aims and objectives of the UNIA ACL, obligated here in Ujima. Moving forward, we see Ujama, cooperative economics. To build and maintain an economic network, though, not just stores and shops. And we see the Nsabidi in the center shows an inner circle representing the interlocking of a people, with the 4 exposed points showing their outer circle. And if you really take a look at this example here, you see that this is actually the beginnings of what would be called a Venn diagram. See, because when you put 2 pieces of the thing together, you get one that benefits the whole. So you see also on here a meme that's been going around recently describing black economics and how we can win. Basically, it's a collective effort. You see in the middle there, the statue that welcomes us on West Africa, welcoming us home with the image of the mother, father, and child. And you also see a book there called Powernomics. Let us take a moment to look at that, dealing with Ujama and cooperative economics. Dr. Claude Anderson tells us that there's a direct relationship between not owning businesses and being in prison. 51% of the prison will be black because blacks don't have businesses and industries. Keyword, industries. This is what we said a minute ago. We're not talking about just stores and shops. We are talking about organizing the collective to create industries that will benefit the collective. Blacks don't practice group economics. Blacks practice what? Group politics. Interesting. Moving on. He speaks about the 4-tier building here in Powernomics. You see, the first floor is business and group economics. Basically, that the origins of our collective economics, our networks and things like that, we come together to put together our best business minds to figure out how to create an economic system for each other first. That's where they talk about circulating the black dollar throughout the black community more than one time. Next, you see, control politics through financial lobbying, etc. The way Dr. Claude Anderson says it, you take the money from the first floor and you control the second floor. Basically, that is how all politics is controlled. It is, and Dr. Claude Anderson tells us that this is the way that this is the model that we need to follow in order to be beneficial. Next, you go to the next floor and use your political influence to influence the police and courts. Because we know that we are most likely to be arrested. We know that we are most likely to be shot and killed by police. We know that we're in the prison systems overpopulated, right? So the goal is for us to fix these things. We must then follow the building plans that Dr. Claude Anderson said and control the police and courts. Next, we have to develop media. We are here today dealing with some black media. However, what we need to do is bring these networks together to create an industry out of these things. Yes? Moving forward. NIA, purpose, the reason we're here today. The symbol that you see there is the Nefer symbol. It says it's a symbol of beauty, but it's also a symbol of divinity. So when we talk about beauty and divinity, we realize that when we have always historically come together as a people and followed our divine purpose, we have always coming out looking beautiful. Yes? When we look through history, we see a picture here of, in the middle, you see the black doctors and lawyers of today. To the right, you see Marcus Garvey and the UNIA ACL. To the left, you see the mighty black dynasty, the 25th dynasty of Africa. of Ethiopia moving up into into Egypt. Every time we've shown collective effort, we've shown. When they say that we come from kings and queens, we come from a long line of kings and queens, divinity, and royalty. Ashe. Moving on, Kuumba, creativity. We see here that it says to make things beautiful and beneficial, but not just for us, but for those who inherit it from us. The Dogon cosmology describes the formation of the egg, dealing with the 7 rays of a star. If you see here in the middle, those are the 7 rays of creativity. Come from the Dogon mythology. If you remember, they're the ones that discovered Sirius B. So please take a moment to look up the Dogons and the 7 lines of creation. Moving forward, Imani. Faith in the fact that we can actually win. But what does winning mean? Winning means life, stability, and endurance for generations to come. And here you see the symbols, the Ankh and the Jed, where they represent life, stability, and endurance. Now, the survival piece is not a theoretical survival. We are talking about the literal continuation of our race. Moving forward. So the question is, throughout this whole discussion, we've been talking about nation, government, etc. What can you do for the nation? You see the quote from Emmett Till's mother. She said whenever she saw injustices around the world, she never thought that it would affect her. She thought that other people's problems were on them, that we had to just deal with whatever we had to deal with within our own household. However, after her son was killed, she realized that the problems of Negroes everywhere must become the problem, all of our own. So what else can we do for the nation? Garvey said, we need to create social-friendly, humanitarian, charitable, educational, institutional, constructive, and an expansive society. This comes directly from the aims and objectives again. He tells us we need to have a confraternity among our race to work for the better conditions of Negroes everywhere. If this is not the most honorable duty for African people, then I don't know what is. Moving forward. Here you see our current President General, the Honorable Michael R. Duncan, tells us that all that we need, our founder and ancestors have already provided to us in our Constitution and preamble, the philosophies and opinions of Marcus Garvey, message to the people, and the Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World. We are still faced with the same issues that people fought for in the 1920s. Is this not true? So it behooves us. Remember that word obligation for the collective. It behooves us to come together for the uplift of our race. Here you see the illustrious lineage of our 11 President Generals, from Marcus Garvey all the way down to the Honorable Michael R. Duncan. And this brings us to the conclusion of our presentation. I'd like to thank you all for your participation. And remember that I believe that Kwanzaa is a thing that we need because it forces us to come together every year. But we have to remember to take these things that we learn and use them throughout the year. Doesn't mean just use them in symbolism or just to speak about them, but it means to the duty and obligation to work, to sacrifice, to bring our people together. If we are not doing that, then what, my friends, are we doing? So with that, I leave you with one God, one aim, one destiny, and as always,